Hello YouTube, it's Mr. Magz here, and today on Stupid Nintendo Articles, I'm going over the article titled, Opinion, Nintendo has been awful at explaining Switch's features. Now I've never seen an article that was more blatantly sensationalized nitpicking, if that was even a thing before now. This article, it points out 5 or 6 features. I can't remember the exact number. 5 or 6 features that are on the Switch that Nintendo, I guess, hasn't really talked about all that much. And I will give them that. But a lot of these features, they're either irrelevant or they're not really necessary for the consumer to know. There's one feature in here I'll get into later that actually is kind of an issue that we don't really know about yet. Granted, I'll just get to that point when we get there. But there definitely is one feature that Nintendo just hasn't talked about at all that actually can be useful. The rest of them, not so much. And this just kind of goes to show you that people are so desperate to bag on Nintendo now that the Switch is popular again, that they'll pretty much take anything they can get just to make Nintendo look bad. And there's quite a few times in this article that he straight up just like leaves out information just to make the Switch look bad. So let's get started. Nintendo launched a new console this month, and fans have been quick to pick up on what the little hybrid can do. Mainly play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and some hair-cutting sim named Snipper Clips. Oh my gosh. Aside from calling Snipper Clips a hair-cutting sim, which isn't even what it is, if anything, it's a paper-cutting sim. It can also play Bomberman, RMX, the Fast RMX, Shovel Knight, basically the entire Neo Geo library, Blaster Master, World of Goo, Little Inferno, Human Resource Machine, Binding of Isaac. I could actually go on, but I'm not going to. So yeah, there's plenty of games they could play, but yes, for right now, let's just assume that Breath of the Wild and Snipper Clips, which, again, why do you have to marginalize it like that? It actually looks like a fun game. I kind of want to play that. So, and I'm sorry, Snipper Clips, for talking bad about you before, but just the more and more I see of this game, like, it actually looks kind of fun. I don't know if it really be a game I want to get into. That's why there's a demo out there. Yeah, that's probably going to be one of the first things I download when I get my Switch, the Snipper Clips demo. But yeah, let's just assume those are the only 2 games you can play on it. But there have been some features that Nintendo has just out and out dropped the ball on explaining, or even revealing to players for its little hybrid that could. And here's one overarching complaint that I have on this article in its entirety. It never talks about the features that the Switch does have. It really just mentions the features that Nintendo hasn't really talked about, but are there. He's going out of his way to make Nintendo look bad by not talking about the features that are there. HD Rumble, motion control, amiibo support, being able to take pictures with the left Joy-Con, being able to play on the go and on the TV. Multiple control options, that's always useful. There's so many things that he just doesn't talk about here, like more than likely leaving them out just to be able to marginalize what the system can do. And just by saying, the only thing it does is play Zelda and Snipper Clips, which I already said that's not the only thing it even plays. It's not the only thing it does, but you know what, just whatever. If that's how you wrote the article, again, more than likely just to marginalize what it can do. And this kind of stuff just really bothers me. So let's get on to his first complaint. Let's start with the Joy-Con as a pointer. It actually does work in that capacity despite the lack of a sensor bar. And I watched the little video that he has down here. It basically uses a motion control and it somehow picks it up without even a sensor, which is actually pretty cool. It's it's actually pretty much the same basic idea that Splatoon 2 has, and even Zelda Breath of the Wild to an extent, when you're aiming, when shooting bow and arrow. It's the same basic concept, but it's used more in a more direct fashion. Like, you have to actually have the Joy-Con pointing at the screen in order to move it. Whereas you don't have to like be pointing it at the screen in order to move in those games I mentioned. So it's not that Nintendo hasn't talked about it. It's more so they haven't talked about its usage in this way, which I guess you could argue but his description is like, I'll just continue. The functionality was beautifully illustrated with the video from World of Goo, not by Nintendo, not by the developer, but by a fan. That's a pretty cool feature that I would think fans would want to know about, especially judging by the reaction of our ever opinionated chatty folks. That's a hyperlink. I'm just not going to get into that right now. But like I said, they kind of already have talked, or at least shown this off, that it can do that in the fact that the Joy-Cons and the Pro Controller can be used for gyro control motion in Splatoon. So again, not exactly in this way, but in a similar fashion that it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to think, oh, it could also do this. So yeah. It even opens the door for Wii ports or remasters. Now, here's where I feel like his argument doesn't really hold up, because I feel like if Nintendo released a game, whether it be a Wii port or remaster or any already new game that does use the motion control as a pointer, and they somehow don't talk about it being used like that, then that would be an issue. But considering how this feature right now, in this way, is only being used in one game not developed by Nintendo, I feel like it's not an issue. But like I said, if they did release, let's say, Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Switch, and you can use the motion controls, you can use the Joy-Con's motion control as a pointer. If they somehow don't show it like that, then yes, it would be an issue, I guess. But still, I don't know how they wouldn't talk about it. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like the World of Goo developers, I feel like they did mention this. Whether, I don't remember if it was before or after people started figuring this out, but still they still mentioned it. I'm pretty sure. I think I read or heard that somewhere. So yeah, it's just kind of a non-issue. It's something that we shouldn't really care about right now, or at least not until Nintendo themselves actually release a game where it is relevant. Because right now it just isn't really. I'll move on. We also found out about 2 weeks before launch that the Nintendo Pro Controller for Switch has an amazing 40 hours of battery life. By comparison, the Wii U Pro Controller offers 80 hours. Was that boasted in a press release? No, it was just written in fine print on the controller's box. Thanks for the heads up, Nintendo. Again, you're just kind of making a problem out of nothing. You're complaining that Nintendo didn't mention the battery life of the Pro Controller that you have to buy separately. Now, if it was the PS4 and they didn't tell you how long the PS4's controller ran on charge, they didn't tell you its battery life, then that would be an issue, because that's the controller you have to play the system with. And Nintendo did tell you the battery life of both Pro Controller or both Joy-Cons is about 20 hours each. So I don't really understand what you're complaining about here. Why do they need to give you a heads up on how long the battery life is. They already told you everything else that was in the Pro Controller. They told you it had amiibo support. You could take pictures. It had gyro. So, and HG Rumble for that matter. So I don't understand why you're singling in on the battery life here. Am I just missing something? Now, maybe Nintendo should have boasted about the Pro Controller basically having triple the battery life of the PS4's of the PS4's battery life. That because if I'm not mistaken, the PS4's controller only goes about 10 hours, if even. Actually, I don't even know if it's that long. So, yeah, maybe they should have boasted about this more, but they chose not to, and I don't really feel like that's an issue. They still have it on the box, so, and they told press on January 13th or people asked the people there, and they're like, oh, it lasts about 40 hours. I saw articles coming out that it would have about 40 hours of battery life back in January, if I'm not mistaken. So, if I'm not wrong, your whole 2 weeks before launch thing is incorrect. Even if we did just find out 2 weeks before, that's still, I don't really see this as even potentially an issue. Now, granted, if you had put in here the fact that it can work with PCs wirelessly, then yes, I could understand that. That's one more selling point for this controller is $70, and people don't feel like just playing Zelda or Bomberman or whatever. They don't feel like they've gotten their money's worth out of it yet. Boasting about the fact that it can be run natively on a PC, that's something. That's something else that people can use the controller for and feel like they got their money's worth, making people more willing to buy this thing. So that's one thing I feel like Nintendo could have told us themselves, but still we already know about it now. So yeah, if you had mentioned that, then I would agree with you. But just saying that they haven't talked about the 40-hour battery life, that's not an issue. I'm sorry, it's just not. Now, here's the one that I feel is so relevant to the gamers. It literally, why do you even bother bringing it up? I'll just read the whole thing real quick. We've also found out that Nintendo's lack of region locks for gamers also has a region-free implementation for developers. That's kind of how it works, but you know what? Let's keep reading. Yes, a remarkable accomplishment where a developer for a Switch game must only submit one version of the game for the entire world. As Image Informed community manager Julius Goldbog, that's the name right there, said in a Nintendo Switch subreddit AMA about the game SteamWorld Dig 2. Now that Nintendo has embraced region-free publishing, we save lots of time since we only need to submit one version of the game for the entire world instead of multiple versions to cover all regions. It saves us months of paperwork. Except Nintendo didn't promote it at all. Obviously a few devs knew about it, but again, this is a great feature that we are finding out about 2 weeks after the system launches. Developers know this. That's how it works on other systems. That's how it works on the PS4 and Xbox One and PC for that matter, since all those systems are region free. So I think PCs are. I'd imagine they would be. Huh. I don't actually know. I was kind of assumed they were. I'm still just going to assume they are. That's just how it works with all these other systems. So why would it be different with the Switch now that it's region free? And even if it were, and even if, why should that affect us at all? They told us about the fact that it's region free straight up at the beginning of the press event on January 12th. So it's, I don't see this as an issue from a gamer's perspective or a developer's perspective. They knew about it beforehand because that's how it works everywhere else. And we knew about region-free gaming, period. So what's the point of us knowing about the fact that it's easier to make SteamWorld dig for it? I guess the idea that it's fast, we get games faster, but I don't understand what your point is here. Essentially, all this guy has been doing throughout this entire thing is stating a fact and then stating it as a problem. He doesn't say why it's a problem. He just says it is a problem. If he elaborated at all about why any of these are issues, I guess the pointer one to an extent, but even then he didn't really say why it's a problem. He just said it was a problem that a gamer found out about it before Nintendo or the World of Goo guys told us about it. And again, with the battery life thing, you say it is a problem, or you state a fact, it has 40 hours of battery life, and then you state that it's a problem. I fail to see your logic here. What about the fact that Image and Form only has to submit one game is an issue that we should care about? I'm just gonna move on. Now, this next one, it actually is more of an issue. This is the one I was talking about that actually is legitimately an issue. Surprised? Actually, no, I'm not, because you haven't really said anything that's surprising yet, but you know what, whatever. Oh, wait, there's more. There's apparently a hidden cloud save feature. Yes, cloud saves. Another Redditor, bless their intrepid souls, named Patson, had to return his Switch to Nintendo for repairs, and he had assumed that all his save data would be lost. Indeed, when his new Switch arrived, his account data was fine, but his storage was empty. Figuring that he had to start Breath of the Wild from scratch, he booted it up, only to see a cloud download icon. So full of hope, I start my game, and there was my saves are intact. Okay, that's cool. This is actually a really, really big issue that people had with the Wii U. If your system broke, all your digital games were lost. So they clearly remedied that. We should be congratulating for that, right? They fixed one of the biggest issues people have with the Wii U. But no, he's stating it as an issue. Now, granted, maybe it would be nice for people to actually know about this before so if they break their Switch, they won't be freaking out. So that is one thing that I could definitely see being argued as an actual issue. So there's that. Then it goes a little more. Cloud saves. Steam has it, PS4 has it, Xbox One has it. Nintendo surely told us about it, right? If it did, it was buried deep in a technical specs document. Before this is the first we've heard of it. Yes, it is the first we've heard of it. And yes, it is a very, very useful feature that, say, in the future, they could do a lot with that. But clearly Nintendo's online services, period, just aren't ready yet. They're partnering with DNA to finalize it as we speak. So, again, I'm not going to say this isn't an issue, because having cloud saves is definitely an improvement over the Wii U, and it is something to tout when people argue the fact that Nintendo hasn't learned anything, and then you can say, oh, there's this, one of the biggest issues was solved. But again, I really, really want to agree with this guy on this point alone. Everything else, not so much. At least to the fact that it's an issue. Everything else he said is a feature that we know about now, so it's kind of irrelevant. This one, I kind of want to agree with you on it. but I can't because you don't really give me anything to agree with. You tell me you stated a fact. This guy got his Switch broken, and then Nintendo fixed it for him with all his data saved. And then you say this is a problem. I just fail to see. I fail to see your just. I just don't understand why he's trying to do this. Again, it's almost like he's rushed this article out just so he could find something to complain about Nintendo. I don't know. Let's just continue. While it goes without saying that Nintendo tries to be innovative with its hardware, it has been oddly awful at giving us the details of some of the most basic and useful features of its little hybrid. Useful, like the region-free development that we can't use. Useful, like the 40-hour battery life that we know about. It's on the box. I mean, sure, that is a basic. The Pro Controller battery life is a basic feature of a peripheral you have to buy separately, but still, it just kind of more and more makes me realize that this is just him finding something to complain about. And it's not like they didn't tell you about the actual most important features of the system. If they straight up told you, if they didn't tell you about the HD Rumble, motion controls, Amiibo, what the little button on the left Joy-Con did, or the fact that you can straight up take it with you on the go, if they didn't tell you any of that, and it's released it to the public, and has expected people to figure out what it does, and that's one thing. But they told you all the features that the basic consumer should know about. Everything else that you're complaining about here, I just don't feel like they're an issue for people who are going to be buying the system. Except for the cloud saves thing, which, again, isn't really an issue. It's especially since it's something we know about now, and it actually helps Nintendo's argument of that this thing is better than the Wii U. So it's I don't know. Given all these new features being found, you would think Nintendo would have been squealing about them like the prize pig showing off at the county fair. But instead, fans are doing a better PR work than one of the premier game companies in the world. And Nintendo is so confident in the unit's popularity, even without key disclosures, that it has already announced it is doubling production on the Switch. Your key disclosures? Heaven forbid we never found out that developers only had to send one game out for confirmation. Heaven forbid we never figured that out. That would have ruined our lives. That would have ruined my gaming experience if I had never known that. Oh well. I'm pretty sure the people who bought the system on March 3rd and then found this information out a week later, I'm pretty sure their gaming experience hasn't changed at all. They're still going to be looking forward to SteamWorld Dig 2 just the same. They're still going to be playing Zelda just the same. Still going to be playing Bomberman, Fast RMX just the same. They're not going to be like, oh, I am so glad that Shinnon was able to just produce one version of this game so I could get this game faster, I guess. See what my point is here? Like, that and the 40-hour battery life. Now, I guess it could potentially be an issue if someone bought it assuming it had the same amount of battery life as the Wii U Pro Controller, but it has half that. But even then, people who bought the Pro Controller, they used it forever. They barely ever charged that thing. So, and then they find out that the Pro Controller has half that, so they'll charge it only a few more times than they did the Pro Controller. especially since the majority of the people who are going to be playing this thing, or going to be playing the Switch period, are going to be taking it on the go at least probably a quarter of the time. So it's honestly not going to matter that the Pro Controller only has 40 hours of battery life. That's not a key disclosure Nintendo should have sent out press releases for. And the pointer, the Joy-Cons as a pointer, I mean, it very easily could be that developers don't know about this. That could be a problem. But considering how they know motion control and gyro controls work with every control option, I feel like they know about it. I just don't see why they wouldn't. So yeah, I don't see any of these, even to an extent the cloud save feature, as key disclosures Nintendo should have talked about, or they had to talk about. And what does them not talking about these things have to relate to the fact that they're doubling their production? They're doubling their production because people went out of their way to buy this thing, to fight other people for pre-orders, and to fight other people for the few Switches that were in stores on March 3rd. Those people's lives haven't changed at all now that they know this. I almost guarantee that. If anything, their lives are better because they know, oh, if my Switch breaks, I can get a new one just fine. Let's just continue. I get that Easter eggs are cool. Keeping them secret so fans can find them and show off their discoveries is something every game company does. But these are prominent features, not cool little in-jokes that a developer dropped in to see who was paying attention. Prominent features? A prominent feature of the system is the HD rumble. A prominent feature of the system is gyro control. A prominent feature of the system is straight up being to take it out of the dock and playing it on the go. That is a prominent feature. The things that is listed were the things that they had to talk about. The things that were new about this system. Gyro control isn't necessarily new, but it's something that many games and many developers are probably going to utilize. Not every game is going to utilize the Joy-Cons as a pointer, or like as a Wiimote style. And if Nintendo wants to use it like that, they can. Instead, it gives us the vibe that Nintendo, at the very least, isn't paying attention, and at the very worst, is totally out of touch with what fans and developers find important. Developers find important the fact that they can present one game to Nintendo and not have to make like 40 different games for each language. That's important to developers, and developers know that. You're going to tell me that Shin'en and Konami and Ubisoft, when they was Just Dance, you tell me that those guys, they presented their game and they just didn't know about the fact that they only had to present one? I just kind of fail to see, especially that last sentence there. And I've already kind of explained that these features aren't important. Most of these features aren't important to fans except the cloud save one, but now that we know about it, it's something that's there we shouldn't worry about. So I don't understand the fact that you try to say that these features are important to developers, yet one of them only really works for certain games, and the World of Goo guys knew about it, so they put it in, so clearly they knew what they were doing. Nintendo probably asked Nintendo, can we do it like this? They're like, yeah, sure. Or they tried it and it was a Wii port, so clearly they tried it and it worked. And now that it works, other developers can maybe use it in their games too. So I just don't really understand how any of these features, the fact that they didn't talk about them, are that important. And then this last couple of sentences. What else can the Switch do that you are keeping from us, Nintendo? Do tell, please, before we discover on our own. Heaven forbid we find an Easter egg, like you said, on our own. If we found out a feature on our own, that more than likely means that a developer utilized a feature, like the Joy-Con pointer. So I just this entire article, I want to agree with some of your points, but if you at least put a little bit of effort into explaining why some of these are actual issues, especially the Pro Controller one, because that one I just can't even fathom why the fact that it only has only 40 hours of battery life is an issue when it's not. It's just not. Again, heaven forbid the Pro Controller has double or even triple the battery life of the PS4 controller. How dare they? And like I said before, I feel like your article would have been so much stronger had you talked about the features that are there and then juxtaposed them with little features that actually are in the system. I feel like this article would have been a lot more potent had you done what I just said, and then talked about these features in a more positive way, I guess. Talk about them. These are features that Nintendo hasn't really talked about, but there's something that fans have discovered. But no, that makes too much sense. That shows Nintendo in a positive light. We can't do that now, can we? But no, instead of making a better article, they instead basically write crap. That's honestly what this is. It's 30 minutes of my time wasted talking to a guy who, honestly, I don't even think he thinks these are issues. Yeah, I think I've said my piece here. If any of you have found any extra feature Nintendo hasn't told us about, please leave it in the comment section down below. But I'm pretty sure that isn't the case, especially since most of you probably don't even have a Switch yet, unfortunately. So, yeah. Until next time, see you later.